Okay, good morning, students. So till yesterday we have seen the how to create buttons, different JApplet classes, JApplet class in Applet. So we have seen how to create the buttons. Okay, button, then create the but one button object and new button caption string. Whatever the name you want to print over there, you can put it as a string over here. Okay, so this was a simple program to write the button. So this was a button object which we have created. The same one you are supposed to add it onto the screen. Okay, so this button and this button should be saved. Button, then create new button, and inside the bracket you can say that uh, click me. So whatever the name you want to add over there, you can put that name into that new button. Then this was the syntax for the text field. So this text field demo and this should be same. Okay, then text field tf, new text field hello, and this tf and this tf should be same. Okay, then this was a program for the combo boxes. So like this, so you can create one combo box and add into that. Okay, but here you are supposed to add city dot add India, city dot add US. So whatever the object you have created over here, the same object you are supposed to write it over here and then say add. Okay, this was for the checkboxes. By default, if you want to make it as a true, you can put over here true. Otherwise, it will be like your option whether you can put make it as a yes or no. Okay, so these are the two different ways to write the checkboxes. So now the next thing is still here what we have studied, like how to create those components onto the screen. Okay, so we used to create these buttons. Okay, so we can create these buttons, we can create the text fields, we can create the this combo boxes, we can create different check boxes. So just we were used to create it. So now there was no link between what is going to happen if I have created this insert button. So there will not be any link. So that was just like a box over there. So that has not linked to any other event. Okay, so what will happen if I click on this button? That we had not done till now. Okay, we were just creating these things. Now, so here the thing is event handling using AWT or swing components means we can handle the events by using this AWT. So what is the meaning of event over here? So event means what? Uh, so I am just giving some example, right? That like you are sitting in the classroom, okay, and I had asked some students to go and call this person. So that type of event means that person will go to that classroom, he will call some particular person and that person will come back. So that is like event. So we are supposed to think about this, that event handling using AWT and swing components. So these are the things over here: events, event sources, event classes, event listener, delegation of event model. So let's see what is happening over here. So the event means what? An event is the one of the most important concept in Java. The change in the state of the object or behavior by performing actions is referred to as an event. Okay, so I am giving, so there will be something will happen when I'm clicking on this button. Okay, so I am performing some action on this button. So whenever I click on this button, so these tabs it is supposed to open. Okay, so that is called as an event. So actions include button click, key press, page scrolling, or cursor movement. So if I'm moving this cursor, suppose I'm clicking on this button, so that button click, key press, suppose sometimes like control S, suppose I'm doing. So what will happen? So whenever I'm doing control S, the document will get saved. So whenever, so that action should perform, right? Page scrolling, if I'm making that scrolling button up and down, so that page will go, it will move up and down. Or cursor movement, suppose I'm moving this tab from here to here, what will happen? The position of that picture will move from one place to another place. So these are the different events. So I'm, if I'm doing something, some action I'm performing, so according to that some actions will be something will happen after that. Okay, so those are called as the events. So Java provide a package java.awt.event that contains several event classes. Okay, so whenever I am saving java.awt asterisk sign means it will include all the classes actually. But if I want to be very specific about the event classes, I can mention it over dot event. Okay, so in that abstract window toolkit, there will be some classes which are related to, specifically related to the events. Okay, now there are two event types. One is a foreground event and one is a background event. Okay, foreground means whatever actions happening onto the screen, so that we can say as a foreground events. And suppose background event. So if I have the software of Java, that is Eclipse, and whenever I'm saying run button, so some actions will be performed at the background. Okay, we are not able to see that what is happening exactly. So those actions will be performed at the background, and then you can see the output on the result on the onto the screen. Okay, so these are the foreground events. Means it is visible. So if I'm clicking on this table button, it is happening like this. Okay, so if I'm scrolling up and down, so these slides are moving up and down. Okay, suppose I'm moving this cursor from here to here and here to here. So this image is moving from one place to another place. So these are the some events which are happening onto the screen directly. Means the actions are the events. Means the whatever the actions are performed, those are immediate actions, and sometimes it can happen at the background also. So the delegation event model, again, this is an important question for your exam. So the delegation event model means what? The mechanism for controlling the events and deciding what should happen after an event occur is referred to as event handling. Okay, so Java follows the delegation event model for handling the events. So whatever the actions are going to perform, so that I should mention in that program, right? So how will it understand that if I'm clicking on the button, which action should be performed? So those things I should write it into my program, so that what should happen after an event occur is referred as a event handling. Okay, so something will happen when I'm clicking on this button, that is okay. But what is happening, what will be the output of that, or where it should means whenever I'm logged in, if I'm clicking on the login button, so what it will happen, it will create your mail account. Okay, it will get inside into your mail account, and there you can see the mails over there. Suppose I'm writing over there, create new mail. Okay, write new mail. So whenever I'm saying compose button, clicking on this compose button, this window will appear, and here you can write your mails over here. Okay, suppose I'm clicking on this inbox button, so it will see that whichever the mails are available over here. Whenever I'm clicking on this send button, it will redirect. Okay, it will be directed to that window, and there whatever the next things are there, it will be visible onto your screen. So what will happen when you are clicking on this? So that is called as the event handling. So Java follows the delegation event model for handling the events. Okay, so it follows the delegation event model to perform or to handle the events. Now, in this Java delegation event model, it consists of two things. One is a source and another one is a listener. Okay, so one is called as a source and another one is called as a listener. So suppose I am telling one student to go to the class and announce something. So I am the source, okay, because I have told him to go to the classroom and inform these things to others. So, and who will be the listener? You people are the listener. Those who or that person is also first listener. He will perform that action, and it will be the information will be passed to you. So these are the two things. So it consists of the source and the listener. So inside source, which all things comes: buttons, checkboxes, list, menu item, choice, scroll bar, etc. are the sources from which events are generated. So till now, whatever the things we have seen. So we have seen how to create the buttons. So those were the sources. We have seen how to create the checkboxes. Again, those were the sources. List, menu item, choice, scroll bar. So all these things comes under the sources. Okay, so just we had created this. We have not till now we have not linked it to the events. So the only source we have created. Now the listeners. Now we have to link it with the listeners. So it will understand that, okay, so whenever I'm clicking on this button, or whenever I'm scrolling up and down onto this scroll bar, or whenever I'm clicking on this choice button, whenever I'm clicking on this menu item or sub menu item, so what things will happen, so that we have to link it with those listeners. Okay, so the listeners means what? The events which are generated from the source are handled by the listeners. Okay, so each and every listener represents interface that are responsible for handling events. So the events which we are going to generate from the source are handled by the listener. So that we are going to link it with the listeners, and those listeners will perform some actions according to our requirement. Okay. So whenever I'm saying that I'm clicking on this button, the listener will perform the action of opening these windows. Okay. So those are the listeners. So each and every listener represents the interface that are responsible for handling the events. So for every a listener, there will be different action will be assigned, and according to that they will perform. Okay. So this is the event delegation model. This is the simplest diagram. So there is one event, one component which extends to the class. So these are your components which we have created. That buttons, check boxes, combo boxes. So these are the different components. Okay. So I am connecting. So event means I am going to click that button. So that is my event. And what it that we are connecting when I am clicking to the button. So button means is your component, and clicking is your action, that is your event. So whenever I am clicking on this button, so click on to the button, so what will happen, it will go to the listener. Okay, and it will perform some actions depending upon our requirement. So we are supposed to write the program over here, so it will listen to that. Listener is your interface. Okay, so what actions are going to perform and which component you have connected, so this is your interface. Okay, so what I told you. So I am the source. Okay, so whenever I am telling some student that okay, go to the class and call that person. So I am the source. So that interface means that person who is going to the class. So that is the interface between me and some action is going to happen over there, right? In inside the classroom. So that person is a listener. Okay, who all are present into the class today. Okay, suppose I am calling Mahesh. Okay, I have called Mahesh and I am telling go to the classroom and call Vedant Raut. Okay, so what is happening? I will be the source person. Okay, so I am the source person or the button event or button you can say. So the event is happening. So I am thinking that okay, I want to give some information to the Vedant Raut. So I will call Mahesh. So Mahesh is a listener, first listener. Okay, so that is the interface between me and Vedant Raut. Okay, so the Vedant Raut is a some action. I want to give some information to the Vedant Raut, some program I am asking him to implement. So that action will be happen over here. But who is the listener? Who is the interface between me and Vedant Raut? Is the Mahesh Chaudhary. Okay, so I am calling Mahesh. So he is a listener. He will go and give the information to the Vedant Raut, and the some actions will be performed over here. Okay, so that is the way it is happening. The delegation event model. So these are the different GUI components. It can be a button or menu, text field, text area, checkboxes. Radio means so whenever you are going the choices, okay. So those are the radio buttons. So option A, option B, option C. You used to click tick, right? So those are called as the radio buttons. List, okay. Choice, scroll bar, window, mouse, keyboard. Okay, some programs are there. This is our first program, event handling method. Uh, from your practicals, so that we will see for the window is also there, and no, so for mouse and keyboard both are it is there, and window I have given as extra program for you. So those things, three things we will be studying in the lab also. So what is happening over here, these are the different GUI components. So for every this table is very very important. Okay, so you try to understand what is happening over here. So these are the different GUI components. So for every GUI component, so button and menu, if it is there, the event name is action event. Okay, for the action event, the listener is action listener. So for every event, event name is different and the action listener is different. Now focus on this diagram. So these are your components. Different components are there, buttons and what we are thinking about button and menu. So we for button and menu it is same. Okay. So what is the event name? Action event. So the event name is action event, and the listener which we are doing here, it is a action listener. Okay, and the listener method. So different methods will be over here. It sometimes it is one itself, sometimes there are two methods, sometimes there are nine methods. So it depending upon the which event you are using or which component you are using. Okay. So here the action listener is your listener, and public void action perform. So that is going to happen. So this is your listener method, action perform, and we are creating here one object, that action event AE. Okay, so that name can be anything, action event. So we have put the name AE. So fine, do you understand these things? So for button and menu is your GUI component. See here, the GUI component is button or menu. The event which we are it is happening, it is called as a action event. Okay, the action listener, the listener name is also action listener, and the method it is called as a action performed. Okay, so what is the name? Public void action perform. A is small, P is capital. Action perform, action event AE. Okay, so this is for the GUI component, button and menu. Same way for the text field and text area. Suppose the component which we want to create or which we want to give it to the listener is suppose text field or text area. Text field means it will be of one line only. Okay, suppose I want to write my name into that some pages, you would have filled some forms, right? So if it is only for my name, first name, last name, or middle name, so like that only small field it is required, that is called as a text field. And text area means suppose you want to write your full address, so that is called as a text area. Suppose means if you want to write more lines into that, then it is called as the text field, text area. Okay, both are same. Text field means for the small, for one line only, or in one short one. And the text area is means when you want to add multiple lines in that, that is called as a text area. Okay, text field, text area. Then the event name is focus event. The event which is going to happen over it is called as a focus event, and the listener is a focus listener. The listener it is called as a focus listener, and the actions are performing going to perform over here. And there are two types of actions: focus gained and focus lost. Okay, suppose it is listening, then that is called as a, we will see all the programs related to this, but just before that, try to understand these concepts: focus gain and focus lost. Okay, and the objects or the which we are going to create here, it is focus event FE and focus event FE. You can put the same names. So these are the different methods. So the component which we have seen just now, it was a text field or text area, the focus event, focus listener, focus gain, and focus lost. Okay, so this was for these two GUI components. Then the next was checkbox, radio, list, or choice. Okay, for any one event can be over here. So for all these events, it used to call as an item event. Okay, then the item listener and public void item state change. Okay, so check boxes means I'm clicking on some check boxes, then it will perform that item state change. Suppose I'm clicking some option A, B, C, D. So that is, suppose I'm clicking on option B, then it will say that item state change. List, suppose I from the list, if I have chosen something from this list, I have chosen the Times New Roman or Arial one, then it is called as a state change. And the choices. Okay, so there will be again, this is a choice only. So I'm choosing some choice, the font size will be of this size or that size, then that is called as a item state changed. Okay, so these are the item events. Then the listener is item listener and item state change. Okay, then next one is a scroll bar. So whenever we are creating these scroll bars, the scroll bar is the event. The event name is the adjustment event. So here the name of this event is the adjustment event, and the listener is the adjustment listener. Public void adjustment value changed is the listener method. Then for the window method, there are I think nine methods are there. One, two, three, four, five, six, seven. Okay, seven methods are there in window. So whenever we are creating this window, the event it is called as a window event, the window listener. Public void window activated. Okay, so whenever you are creating one new window, then that is called as a window activated. Window closed, window closing, window deactivated, window deconfined, window confined, window opened. Okay, we will see all these events while writing the program. So the event name is window, window event, window listener, and these are the different actions performed. Then for the mouse, mouse event, mouse listener. Again, this is a program for our syllabus itself. Mouse clicked, mouse pressed, mouse released, mouse entered, and mouse exited. Okay, so mouse click. Whenever I'm clicking the button or something like this on the window itself, it will show that mouse click. Mouse pressed. Okay, then mouse released. Whenever I'm releasing it, it will say mouse released. Mouse entered. Suppose it is entering into that applet window, then it used to say mouse entered. Whenever it is moving out of that window, it used to say mouse exited. Okay, so that type of program we have to write. So the event name is mouse event and the listener is a mouse listener. Then the keyboard, for the keyboard also, suppose the key event, key listener, and the public void key pressed. If I'm pressing some keys, then that is called as a key pressed, key released, and key typed. Okay, pressed and type, actually it shows same. What is the difference? I don't know, but they have given two different events for this: key pressed, key released, and key typed. Okay, so these are the different GUI components, their event name, event listener, and these are the different listener methods. So let's see how to write the program, simple program here I have mentioned. Okay, we will see one by one in detail afterwards also. First, try to focus over here. So these are the three packages or files we have to include. Fine, import java.applet. Okay, import java.applet, java.awt, and java.awt.event. Okay, so this particularly we are writing for the event class, so we are mentioning here event. So the public class and applet with buttons, the class name here which we have given, extends applet. Okay, till here we used to write which extends applet. Now here we have to mention that it implements the action listener. Okay, so the event listener interface, we should write it over there that it implements the action listener. Till now we used to create only the buttons or the only those components. Now we have to connect those components to the action listener. Okay, so we have to write in the program over here which implements action listener. Okay, so here we have created two buttons, button 1 and button 2. Then public void initialize the class. Button 1 is equal to new button button 1. This was a simple program how we have done till now. Add button 1. Okay, so the which button we have created over here, the same one you have to add it into our program. Then to that button some specific action should be performed, right? So here we have to mention button 1 dot add action listener this. Okay, so this is a syntax for that. Button 1 dot add action listener, a capital L capital action listener this. Okay, same way button 2, new button button 2. Button 2 is the name. Okay, here you can write some name, cut, copy, paste, like that. So you can create some button. So cut means it should cut some whatever we are writing, so that action should be performed. Copy means the copy action should be performed. Paste means paste action should be performed. So this was a simple sample program, so just I have given the names button 1, button 2, button 3, like that. So the button 2, add that button 2 which we have created into this. So these are just names. Again, whatever you are writing in the double inverted, it has no meaning. These are just names. So cut means it will not understand that you have to cut or copy or paste. Okay, you are supposed to write the program for that. Don't get confused. So these are the just names. So add button 2, button 2 dot add action listener this. Okay, so this was initialization, invoking the button click event. Okay, so just we have tell them that some actions we are going to perform on these buttons. Okay, which actions will be performed, that till now that we have not told them, but some actions will be performed with those buttons. So we have connected it to the action listener. Hmm? Now, action listener interface defines the action perform method. Using this method, event is handled. Now, which actions to be performed, that we have to mention over here. Public void action perform. Why we have written here action listener? Are you getting? See, for the button, it was the action event and the listener was the action listener. That's why here we have written action listener dot add action listener. Suppose I would have created some text field or text area, I would have written focus listener. Okay, Here that was for the button. So we have here also we have written implements action listener. Okay, it depends on what are you going to create. If you are creating the buttons, it should be action listener. Here also you have to write action listener dot add action listener and action performed. Okay, so here the method was public void action performed. Okay, same way here also public void action performed, action event AE or E, any object you can create. Events get handled here. Okay, so just till now we had told that okay, something is going to happen with you, some actions will be performed when we are clicking that button. Now what is going to happen? If E dot get source is equal to button, so this object we have considered. If E dot get source means something, if I'm whenever I'm clicking is equal to button, system out print ln button 1 was pressed. Okay, so what it will display onto the screen? Button 1 was pressed. Else system out print ln button 2 was pressed. Okay, so some action has performed that we have understood. If it is button 1, then it will say button 1 was pressed. Otherwise, it will say that button 2 was pressed. Is it clear? Okay, I will repeat once again. We are focusing on this button GUI component. Okay, so the actions which will be there, event name is action event, action listener, and the listener methods. Okay, action perform. So what will happen over here? Public class and applet with windows. Okay, that was my class name. You can put simple name also, just for understanding purpose. And applet with buttons. Okay, which extends applet. This we used to write. And here we have to write implements the action listener, because we are writing for the button. Okay, we are thinking about the buttons. So we should write here implements action listener. Okay, now first I have created two buttons, button 1 and button 2. So what is that? Button 1 is equal to new button in double inverted. I have written button 1. The name of the button is button 1. Again, that can be anything. Okay. Add that button 1 which we have created here. These two things should be same. So this button 1 you have created, right? So this one and this one should be same. That same thing you have to add it onto the screen. Okay, here also button 1, because to that button we are creating the add action listener. Okay, same way here we have created button 2. Okay, same button we are adding onto the screen, button 2, and for that button 2 only we are giving some action. Okay, add action listener to this. Now which actions are going to be performed? If E dot get source is equal to button 1, again here button 1. Okay, system dot out dot println button 1 was pressed. Okay, so here you can write anything, again double inverted, hello good morning to you students, like that. So whenever you if want to so whatever the actions you want to print over there, suppose I am clicking on this design button, this it will say that a design button has opened. Okay, click design button was pressed. Okay, like that, system out dot println button 2 was pressed. So like that we have to write the event handling. Okay, I don't do. I will not go here because it will be more for you. So till now, do you understand? This table is very, very important. This delegation event model is very, very important. So we had started with the events. Okay, so event sources, event classes, event listeners. So events means something, some actions will be performed over there, then that is called as a event. Okay, so the actions means what? It can be button click, key press, page scrolling, or cursor movement. That you can consider all these are the different events. So while writing the programs for the events, you are supposed to write this java.awt.event class that contains several event classes. Okay, so in the event delegation model, there are sources and there are listeners and there are methods. So sources म्हणजे काय? So sources, so these are the your different class components which extends the class, which extends the applets, and listeners, these extends the, it implements the interface. Okay, so action listener, action, focus listener, event listener. So these are the different listeners which we are using for the different components. Okay, so these are the listeners: action listener, focus listener, item listener, window, mouse, keyboard listener, key listener, adjustment listener. So these are the different listeners which we have to write, which implements to this listener. Okay, depending upon which we are going to create, that we have to write it over here. This is the class name which extends the applet. Okay, which extends the class. Okay, all these components, it belongs to the some class we are writing for the applet one. So it extends the class applet. So we have written it extends the applet class. Listeners, it implements the interface. It implements the interface. So which interface we are using? These are the different interfaces, listeners, or we can say these are the interfaces. Okay, so the interfaces can be action listener, focus listener, item listener, adjustment listeners, like that. And these are the, according to that, some actions will be performed. So these are the different methods. So if it is a button, so it will say the action performed. Okay, if it is some text field or text area, what it will say the focus gain or focus lost. Some checkboxes. So this table is important. You should remember this table, and according to that, you are supposed to write the program. So till this 2 points were same, creating and adding on to the container. Okay, but when we are creating itself, we should inform that there is a some action will be performed on this button. So we have to say that add action listener to this. Okay, so what will be happening over that we have to mention it into the action perform method. Okay, in that action perform, it will say that this was a simple program, so we have just mentioned that button 1 was pressed, button 2 was pressed, like that. So I hope it is clear.